So Leader is probably the biggest piece of what we're releasing later this year in kind of early access program, and then formally in the new year. But we've been really fortunate to work with some amazing people in the industry over the last 2 years building this out. And there's a few things we're really excited to share that we're going to be releasing over the next 6 months. The first will be Leader. So in an example of it practically working in the new UI of CoLab 3.0, right click a file, I want an approval, I tag the people, drop them a note, and it's gone. The rest of the cycle will automatically happen once this review is sent off. On the front end of this, you won't need a software developer to actually do the process mapping. It'll just be drag and drop to build your process, and then you start, and you can configure that based on workspaces or projects, and have it, or even as a company standard if you'd like to. So that way you can focus on just doing the review and not the administrative work of getting from point A to point B. The second one I think is probably the fan favorite, the one we get asked about the most, is do we handle checklists? Do we help you do the quality side? And I'm happy to say that we will. And this will be built into Leader, and this will work basically the same way as the issue tracking system. So you'll see an app in CoLab in the right-hand panel. So anytime you're looking at a file, you get a checklist open and be checking against it. Or you can work from more of the traditional spreadsheet or kind of table style view from the dashboard and have 2 screens open. This will actually let you upload your own custom checklist through a CSV import. You create those, you can tag it against the review itself. And then as you're going through and doing your checks, if there's actual problems, you can just link the issues and comments directly to the line item, and we'll do all the metric tracking for you. So if you want to find out how many comments were raised against a certain category of check, we can just tell you that. You don't need to count it. You don't need a spreadsheet. We will do that for you. And in the future, we're going to build all the reporting system in so you can basically tie this into a QMS and how you do, in particular, if you're doing ISO reporting, that type of stuff, just automatically by doing your job. The third one is sort of unique. We talked about the supply chain example earlier, where you're working across company boundaries. And the real inspiration for this was that most people are sensitive to what they share where. So what we're going to release is the ability for companies to do what we call multi-company mockup. So in this case, manufacturer 1 and manufacturer 2 could actually work in the same viewer, bring their own models into the same viewer scene without ever actually sharing the file with the other person, and have full control over what the other team or person can do with that file, all the way down to can they see internal geometry, can they take measurements, can they see the model tree, can they download it, can they share it further, all those types of things. So that when you have that next big joint collaboration, you're talking about a big EV project or big defense project, and you want to mock things up, take measurements, check for interference checks, you can do that without even transferring the data anymore. So those teams that kind of manage the relationship between now have a superpower for doing this. And then internally, for you doing just a quick design ideation and ideas, you can just take models, bring them in the CoLab, and really quickly understand, how is this thing going to fit? Is this going to work? What if I rotate it this way? And not actually have to go through the process of building a fully defined assembly. And then our biggest goal, and this one's a bit of a longer term piece, parts of this will come with 3.0, is becoming your system of engagement by choice. Fundamentally, we don't want to be a tool that gets thrown to you and you say, oh, I got to use this thing. We want it to be a tool where you say, hey, I want to use this thing and I'm trying to push this other places. And that's why we say system of engagement and not system of record. It's very rare that someone loves a record thing for working in their 8 hours a day. You might love it for tracking some data. Like I love Salesforce for tracking sales data, but I certainly don't want to work in there 8 hours a day. I want to work somewhere like Slack where I feel like I'm working with my team. So the way we see it is CoLab is the hub of that. And through our API, we connect into your CAD and your PLM. And then the next step is connecting into the other tools that you use, things like planning tools. So if you're working on a hardware project that has a software team involved, that has Jira set up, we connect right to your Jira so that your software team can live in Jira, you can live in CoLab, and you can talk back and forth without ever leaving the tool. I think if that was all built out before, people would love that because the context is there. Now we're giving that direct link. And then on the communication side, things like Slack, Teams, and other tools, we'll build directly into, so that similar to a software team where they have their entire pull request process built in, you'll have your entire review and design process built in. And then with our API, we'll let you build the connections that you want. And we'll build more and more of these over time, build an ecosystem around it, sort of similar to Atlassian has done in the software world, where we take different cloud-based tools and legacy systems and bring them together. Because fundamentally, in the next 5-10 years, we're going to see a shift from single source of truth and trying to jam everything into one tool that may not be the place you want to work, which forces people outside, to authoritative source of truth that are very connected data models, similar to the way the software world has been operating for the last decade. An example of this really is this Jira integration that we're going to release later this year. So on the left-hand side, you'll see CoLab with a model that has all the PMI built right into it. On the right-hand side, you'll see Jira. The issues are real-time synced. So if I comment here on the left in the bottom corner in CoLab, it'll show up right away in Jira. If I comment back in Jira, it'll show up right away back in CoLab. So you never have to leave, the histories are synced, and everything you do will be brought to context to the other tool. So in the example here, you'll see in a moment, it'll actually take another screenshot. That screenshot or picture will show up inside of Jira, and then there'll be a link inside of Jira where if I click that, it'll bring me right back into CoLab, resection or change the view state to what it was, and show the other person what the intent was of that design. So basically our goal long-term here with these integrations is to let the teams work from wherever their home really is, instead of forcing them out into something that hinders their efficiency.